And we are live right here in Big D Country, and I am your host, Prince DJ, and we have a great podcast for you. And, well, this is my first guest in 2025, and he is a legend, let me tell you. But you'll hear about him a little bit later, but right now I got some announcements. Coming up, I will still be looking for a second college home. As you know, I graduated from Pierpont Community Technical College over in West Virginia, and I'm looking for either Excelsior University or maybe even ORU, or just take the free class there. And also, so things have been crazy with my phone. That's why I haven't been doing shows lately. But we're here now. But don't worry, we're using an app. I thought I could use the phone, but I am having to use the app. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, are you ready? I said, are you ready? Hailing from Kalamazoo, Michigan, now residing in Lady Lake, Florida, after more than 20 years in professional wrestling, making stops in both WCW and WWF. And now, one of the co-hosts of In-Ring Wrestling Podcast, Casey Thompson.
Hey, how you doing, man? Thanks for having me on your show tonight.
Oh, anytime, and welcome. Like I said, you're the first guest in 2025, and you're my second professional athlete that graced the Big D Country stage. So, welcome.
Oh wow. Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So let's get down to it. We're going to have some more shows with you, and I could see that this is going to be great. And you're also promoting you and one of your other person that does a podcast as well. So you know what? Let's start there. Let's go ahead and promote your podcast already.
Okay. Yeah, it's myself and my co-host is
hello? Hello? And ladies and gentlemen, welcome to an exciting episode of the Big D Zone. And I am Prince DJ. And after the success and the craziness that was the NFL pickup, wow, what a craziness. Oh my goodness. But anyway, I have some announcements for you. Now, I'm supposed to be getting my diploma real soon from Pierpont Community College, Technical College in West Virginia. Also, I'm trying to look for a second alma mater to get my possible BA degree if money doesn't get in the way. So, I'm either going to go to Excelsior College or ORU, which is Oral Roberts University, but I got others down the line just in case. So now, without further ado, in this frigid world we call Big D Country, I am ready to let you in on who my guest is. But I got one question. Are you ready? No! Big D Country! I said, are you ready? Hailing from Kalamazoo, Michigan, now residing in Lady Lake, Florida, after more than 20 years in professional wrestling, making stops in both WCW and WWF. And now, one of the co-hosts of In-Ring Wrestling Podcast, Casey Thompson. Casey, welcome to Big D Country. Welcome.
Oh, thank you so much for having me on the show.
And you just made history, my man, because not only you are my second athlete that I had on the program, I did have a sumo wrestler a couple of years when I was at podcast, one of the conferencing for podcasting. It was Podfest. And also now you're a 20-year veteran in WCW and WWF. So you're my second athlete that I had on the program. So you just made history.
Oh,
congratulations.
Oh, thank you. It's exciting.
You're welcome. So let's get down with I'm going to let my guest promote his podcast that you have, that you're working with your other coworkers on the podcast. So go ahead and shine your podcast.
All right, yeah, it's In Ring Wrestling Podcast. You can find it on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. It's with myself and my co-host partner, Kevin Kelly. He's a former ring announcer at WWF, AEW, New Japan Pro Wrestling. So we just basically do a weekly show, get on there, and a lot of this is from our perspectives. I was with WCW, and he was with WWF during the Monday Night Wars, so it's a very big part of wrestling history. So we both have our own perspective, and we weren't necessarily on the same shows at the same times, but our paths intertwined for many years. We knew each other at the beginning of our careers, and now we are doing a weekly podcast together.
Excellent. Now I'm going to let you get the site at the end of the interview too, but
Sure.
Go ahead and get the site now as well.
I just on all social media from Spotify, Apple Podcast, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. It's just In Ring Wrestling Podcast.
There you go. Well, let's go ahead into the beginning of your professional career. You're going to be here on Big D's Zone plenty of time, so this is not going to be your last rodeo here. Oh no.
All right.
So we have time to start with the beginning. So go ahead and start from where have you started wrestling, and how did you get into the business?
Well, it's I guess you really have to go back to my childhood. I grew up was born in Michigan, and eventually made it down to Fort Myers, Florida. When my parents were really big wrestling fans, and so they were watching wrestling, and I was at the age finally where I was like, this stuff's just garbage. And I went in the room, and they were watching, I think, old WWF before they changed the name and everything. And then one time they were watching again, I walked by, and it was Championship Wrestling from Florida. And on the TV you had Dusty Rhodes and Blackjack Mulligan and guys like that. And I heard Dusty talking, and I was just hooked. I'm like, oh, my gosh, this is what I want to do. And, for years and years, everyone's like, yeah, sure, kid. And then wrestling was at the Lee County Civic Center in Fort Myers where I lived at. So my dad took me and my brother when we were young, and so I saw it live, up close and personal, and it was even better than on TV. And as we kept going to the building, I got to talk to, networking, talking to people even at such a young age. And the ring guy, he was a former wrestler, his name was Gordon Nelson. So I would go and help set up the ring, and the guy who ran the town was Coach John Heath. So Coach John Heath would let me ring the bell, and then he would, I was probably 12 years old at the time, ring the bell. He would actually send posters to my house, and I would poster the town for the upcoming events. So that's really, I got my first start in wrestling, and then I knew that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be in the ring wrestling. And finally, I was in high school, and I was 15 years old. And there was a poster at our school about a little independent show and coming up across the street at the fairgrounds. This was in Orlando where we moved when I was in high school. So I saw it, and then also the bottom of the flyer said, "Learn to be a professional wrestler." And so I talked to my dad, and he's like, my parents are very supportive of it and everything, and because they were huge wrestling fans too. So I went to my first training lesson when I was 15 years old and went for a little bit. And then when I turned 16 and actually was able to drive, I was training all the time. I trained for a whole year, and then I had my first match, and then it was just off to the races from there. It just exploded. I was wrestling, in high school 3-4 times a week, and then graduated from high school. It went on to had my first match on television with WCW in 1990, and up there in Georgia, in Perry, Georgia. And then I just became a regular, being on TV all the time on a regular basis. And then I had some friends that were going. They were booked on a show for WWF. So it was Pensacola, Florida, and Biloxi, Mississippi. And this was in 1991. So I was like, you know what, I'll just go with you guys for the ride, try to get my foot in the door and stuff like that, because you just sit there and wait for them to call you. It doesn't always happen. Sometimes you just got to be aggressive and put your first foot forward and try to just, make it happen for yourself. So exactly. I went, and they had, we're sitting around, and one of the agents was walking around saying, can anyone do the Legion of Doom, the Road Warriors? Can anyone do their finish? And everyone's no one's answering. I'm like, yeah, I can do it. And they're like, oh, you can do their finish? I'm like, yeah, it's easy. They said, all right, you're wrestling them tonight. I'm like, I'm not even booked on this show. He's like, well, you are now. I'm like, okay. So he's like, get ready. I said, all right. So when he walked away, I looked at my buddies and said, hey, what's their finish move? I don't even know. And because I was confident what I could do and everything. So they're like, oh, yeah, it's a Doomsday device. Basically, it's where you sit on their shoulders like you're playing chicken, and another guy comes off the top rope with a clothesline, and you do a backflip and land on your stomach. And so I wrestled the match, and they're like, yeah, when I go underneath you to pick you up, like going to the chicken to sit on my shoulders, I'm going to squeeze your calves. Just do a calf raise to help pop up. He says, and we'll do everything from there, but I like to add a little extra to everything. So I actually pushed off on his head, and I ended up normally you just do a flip and land on your belly. I did 1, 2, and then landed on my belly. So it was on the sizzle reel leading into SummerSlams and WrestleMania for the whole year and everything. So it just started off that. So I was 17, 18 years old wrestling on TV with WCW and WWF, and just it kept on growing from there.
Oh, wow. This is amazing. I love your story. This is pretty inspirational for those that want to be wrestlers in the day. And you hear all wrestlers say all the time, "Oh, I was a fan when I was a kid." And even Nick Foley, the great Nick Foley, even said that.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's I think some of the best wrestlers are actually a fan of the sport. In wrestling. The terminology, they call a fan a mark, and we're all marks for, still this day I'm a mark for the wrestling business, I might not like all the wrestling that's out there, but I still, enjoy watching the stuff that I was a fan of. I'll click on YouTube and I'll start watching stuff from back when I was a kid growing up, the stuff that made me really start to love the sport and everything. So, everyone, I'm still a mark. I'm still a fan of the wrestling business.
Same here. Go Marks! But anyway.
Yeah.
But who did you look up to in the wrestling genre? Who do you look up to in the past, and who do you look up to today?
Well, ironically, which is kind of really a cool, story for me, the people that really got me into wanting to be in wrestling was Dusty Rhodes, Blackjack Mulligan. The first people that I seen on the TV that were just clicked where I wanted to do this. So you had Blackjack Mulligan and another guy, Bugsy McGraw. So after I was trained by a guy who wrestled in the old territory days where wrestling was split up in territories all over the country. So his name was Jerry Gray, the Golden Boy Jerry Gray. He wrestled for Championship Wrestling from Florida, and he was a Bahamas champion. He was a Florida Tag Team champion, and he was the one who trained me. And he ran events all the time, like 3 days a week throughout the state of Florida. And he placed me with a guy, an old-time wrestler who I watched as a kid. His name was Bugsy McGraw. And Bugsy, now he's still friends with him to this day. He's 80 years old and as sharp as a tack. And we talk all the time on the phone, and he's just a good friend, and he was my mentor. He's the one who broke me in the business. So basically what that means is I wrestled him every single time we had a match. I was against Bugsy. So, this old saying, I was married to him. So I was married to Bugsy. I was with him all the time. So he was basically breaking me in the business, teaching me the ins and outs of what to do in a match. So it was Bugsy was one of them. Blackjack, later in my career, we became very close friends. We used to travel together. He broke me. I mean, he ran a wrestling school in Orlando, Florida, and I was one of his trainers. So I trained all of his guys because he was getting older. But I still learned the psychology of the business. Was able to just sit there and listen, and you learn so much from listening. And he became in Blackjack Mulligan. For a lot of people know, his son is Barry Windham. His son-in-law is Mike Rotunda, which wrestled as part of Money Incorporated in WWF as IRS. His grandson was Bray Wyatt, who just recently passed away about a year ago. So I mean, that's how the business evolves. I mean, so. He was one of my mentors that really helped me a lot. And then there was one more that I watched growing up again with Championship Wrestling from Florida. His name is Kevin Sullivan. Kevin Sullivan is probably one of the greatest minds ever in professional wrestling. He just passed away about probably 2 years ago. And I met him when I was 15 years old. I watched him growing up, seen him at live events, but I was on the same card as him wrestling when I was like 15 years old. And we just always just kept in contact and everything. And he just, people don't know who he is. When WCW, you hear the Monday Night Wars, WCW versus WWF. And then you hear about the 83 weeks where WCW surpassed WWF and the TV ratings for 83 weeks straight. Well, the booker who was writing the shows and everything was Kevin Sullivan. He was the one who was doing all that. And Kevin was a really good friend of mine. I used to spend a lot of time at his house down in Key West, Florida, and he had a big guest house he used to stay in. We used to travel together. And, so those are the three people that really did a lot for me in the wrestling business. And then my son was born in 2003, and when he was born, I had to go out of the country to wrestle like 2 days later. And I was just like miserable. I was like, I don't want to do this no more, because I seen what the repercussions of being on the road so much from other people I know that were wrestlers and fathers. So you're on the road 250, 300 days a year, you don't have any involvement in your kid's life, So I'm like, even if I was on the road 100 days a year, still 100 days more than I'm not going to be around my son. I'm going to miss his, him walking, talking, all the first of everything I'm going to miss. So I went out of the country, I wrestled, and I came back. I said, that's it, I'm done. I quit. So I stepped away from in-ring action. And then from there, what happened was through someone I know I met, he wanted to start running wrestling shows and wanted to produce a weekly television show. So it started off as myself, a wrestler named D'Lo Brown, who was
yeah.
Yeah, so D'Lo was my original partner in it, and he was with WWF, and he was the Intercontinental Champion. He was a European champion. I think he held both of them at the same time. I think he was even tag team champion at one time. So he was my partner in the business for this new wrestling promotion we started. We bought bought a company that was up in Canada and in Michigan called MXPW, Maximum Extreme Pro Wrestling. So we brought it down, we moved it down to Florida. We started running events. We produced a television show, and he didn't stay around very long. He had other things going on, so it just left it for me. But we had a weekly television show that our outlet was syndicated throughout the whole country. We reached about 53 million homes a week. So, now I'm back in the wrestling again, but I'm still home every day with my kids and stuff. By this time I have a daughter also. So I was able to still be in the wrestling business, but on the other side of it, we're doing the promotion. I was actually promoting it, booking it, writing it, editing it, and I was doing everything. And it was good. We had a really good program. We used everyone in the wrestling business, from Dusty Rhodes, Barry Windham. We used Raven, Sandman, New Jack, everyone from ECW, from TNA, AJ Styles. I mean, we had everyone came through our company. So, which we were one of the few that had such a large outlet for wrestling. So, you had the two big companies, and then by this time it was this WWE and then TNA. There's no other companies that had television, so I did, and I was bigger than a regional program. So a lot of guys want to come through and wrestle because you're getting people the out of sight, out of mind theory, and that really is a true thing. So people want to be a part of it because they're getting put on TV, and it's gonna rejuvenate their career. People are gonna remember them and stuff like that. So exactly. I did that for a couple of years. And I ran a wrestling school for a couple of years, and so I've just been a little dormant out of the business. I've been I'm involved, but not too much. And then I had a thought about a podcast, and so I called one of my buddies, Kevin Kelly, because he's a great announcer. The guy can keep the podcast going. And I'm like, I can do a podcast, but I need someone that can keep the flow going, keep me on track and stuff like that. Right. And so I called Kevin. I'm like, hey, man, I have a project. I'm thinking about a podcast. And I told him I wanted to use the name In Ring, because when you look at the format sheet on a television, when you're doing television, it will have, say, Sting verse. It'll say In Ring in the slash, and they just write in whoever they want. So the In Ring, the enhancement guy, the extra, whatever they want to call him, job or whatever it is, they're called they're In Ring. So that means they don't give any music or entrance. They just go to the ring while the other match is leaving. So then when they come back from the commercial break, they'll have Sting's music playing, his entrance, and we'll already be in the ring. So they do it at the same time because they do a lot of those matches in the night. Well, they used to. They don't do many of them anymore. So that's where the concept of the name came, In Ring, is just kind of an homage to all the enhancement guys who made all these stars over the years. So so he was like, yeah, he says, I like it. He says, let's, I said, well, I didn't think he would be interested in it. I said, do you have like a young guy that might, would be interested and knows the wrestling business and can help, keep the flow of everything going? And he's like, you know what, let me think about it. Let me look into it. Mm-hmm. And he says, I'll get back with you. So I talked to him a couple weeks later. He's like, you know what? He says, I want to do it. He says, I would love to do it. I said, really? He said, if you want me. I said, well, of course I would. So we started doing a weekly podcast, and it's been going great. and we know it's a marathon, not a sprint. So we're putting the time in and doing everything to grow, and, get it growing and everything. We about a month or so ago just got a producer that's on board helping us, and really has made our quality of our show so much better. So, like I said, it's on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. So, that's what I've been up to, and it's going well, and it's growing. So we're excited about that.
Great. Well, I got two last questions for you for this show, but
Sure.
we're going to do another show. But you know what? I'm going to do something very rare that I haven't done on the Big D Zone. And I challenge you to a promo match.
No.
To see who could do the best promo. We could say whatever we want. It's just freestyle. Anything. It's like anything goes. This is just all for fun. But I challenge you next time we come on to a promo match. Are you in?
All right, I'll take you up on that challenge there.
Okay. It's on. And make the best man win. So my next to last question before we get ready to end the first half of the extravaganza is, before I got ready to book you fully for this podcast, I saw you on WCW. There's a few one on YouTube that I was watching, and you was up against Vader. Now, how in the world did you ever get a chance to go against Vader, even when he almost tried to kill a dude?
Well, I wrestled him quite a few times, probably 10 times through our times in WCW, yeah. I think I know which match you're talking about. It happens to be the last time I wrestled him. And it's an ironic story that we did taped at Universal and Disney, and we do 3 weeks straight for every 3 months. So 3 weeks we would run probably they would take 3 or 4 different shows a day. So we were doing a lot of wrestling, which was good because we're making money. And so the rumor was going around that Hulk Hogan was going to wrestle a television match, which doesn't, usually he'd wrestle a television match would be a big main event match, but he was just going to wrestle on the handsome guy. And I was like, everyone was talking about it, so I'm like, oh wow, this is cool. So I'm like, I want that match. I want to wrestle Hogan. Who wouldn't want to, right? He helped bring wrestling to what it is. So I was thinking about it, and I'm like, how can I get this match? I'm like, I got it. Pee-wee. A guy named Randy Anderson, Pee-wee Anderson. They called him Pee-wee. He was Hulk Hogan's private referee. He refereed all Hogan's matches.
Right.
So I went to Pee-wee and say, hey, Pee-wee, I said, is it true that Hogan's wrestling television match? He's like, yeah. I said, how do you get that match? He's like, I don't know. I said, man, I'll give my payday for that. He's like, really? I said, sure. I said, absolutely. Why not? He was like, all right, that's not a problem. He says, it's you. I said, okay, cool. I come in the next day, and it said right on the board, Hulk Hogan versus Casey Thompson. And I'm like, holy smokes. I'm like, wow. So everyone's like, man, how'd you do that? I'm like, I don't know. I was just playing dumb. I said, I have no clue. I guess he likes me. He likes my work or whatever, right? So as wrestling changes, the format changes. They rewrite the format for the show and everything. So they scratched my match and put Hogan in a tag team match, Hulk Hogan and Macho Man Randy Savage versus Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff and Paul Roma, which was wrestling a team called Pretty Wonderful. So I'm like, all right, you know what? I'm off this hour. So I got my bag and I was like sneaking out the building. I was going to go into the park and get some food and stuff. And then one of the agents came up to me. He's like, hey, where you going? I said, nowhere. He's like, oh, we got you a match. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I'm like, that's cool because I wanted to wrestle because, that's what I was there. Even though I was getting paid to have the day off, that match, the hour off, I still wanted to, if I could wrestle, I wanted to have a match because you want to be on TV and stuff. So that's what we're there for. So I looked at the thing, and I'm like, okay, who you got me? Like, Vader. I'm like, oh, man, again. So this is the match you're talking about. He had me backed in the corner, and he's throwing those big old mitts. He's hitting me in the head left and right, just pounding my head, and you can actually see my hair starting to grow during the match. And but he was so close to me that I couldn't really do anything because he had me backed in the corner real up close to me, just punching me. So I finally got to the point where I was like, you know what? And I'll keep this clean because I said in other podcasts where I was like, you know what? I said, I'm sick of this. I'm tired of this. This guy's been a bully to people, beating up on people, hurting people. He has no regard for safety. He doesn't care about anyone. I say, I don't care if I get fired, if they never bring me back again, or if he just kicks my ass. I don't care, but I'm going to confront him. So I was waiting in the back, and it was a small area where we walked through at. And it was me, the ring announcer, a guy named David Penzer, and another wrestler named Nasty Ned Brady. We're the only ones back there. And Vader came back. He's like, hey, you all right? And I was like, what is your problem, bro? I said, you really need to learn how to wrestle. I said, you're just a big piece of crap. I didn't use that word, but I said, you're a big piece of crap. You need to learn how to wrestle. He's like, I said, you should learn how to throw a punch. If you're not supposed to be there trying to kill someone and give them concussions and everything. I said, he said, well, I put you over with Flair because Flair was the booker then. I said, Ric Flair. I said, I don't care. I said, I don't need you to put me over with anyone. I don't need your help. I said, I'm here for a reason, and that's why they bring me. And I said, you just need to learn how to work. And everyone was like, the two guys back there was like, oh, because everyone feared Vader. They were terrified of him, right? And I stood up to him. And and I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna haul ass to the back door. I said, I'll just leave my bag here. I don't really care. And finally, I said, you know what? He just put his head down and he just walked away. And they're like, oh my gosh.
Wow.
So I felt good to stand up to him because I've seen him hurt so many people over the years. I've seen him break people's necks, noses, you name it. I've seen everything. So,
like I said, he tried to kill a guy.
Yeah. So. I stood up to him, and I never had a problem with him again. But yeah, that's probably one of the matches you were referring to. I did a lot of television under the name Carl Robinson, also on WWF is Mike Casey. So different names, different places and stuff. But then my real name Casey Thompson. So I did a lot of them there too. So, but yeah, that's the match you're talking about. But it seems like everything has a little backstory behind it,
Yeah, that is awesome. I like that story. I really like that story. Now, I had a question because I was talking to a fan, and we were talking about heels and faces and all like that, and so it just gave me an idea of a question for this interview because I told him that I had a big time former wrestler interview, and so the question was, do you consider yourself to be a heel, a face, or a tweener?
It really depends which part of my career. I've wrestled both babyface and heel. The tweener is kind of a new thing since Stone Cold Steve Austin was like a tweener, where he was kind of wrestled like a heel, but the people liked him like a babyface. So
exactly.
I prefer to be a heel, but I really enjoyed being a babyface because as a babyface, you can sell all your merchandise. So you can sell your pictures, T-shirts, posters, all your merchandise, and make a lot of extra money, especially at the live events and stuff like that.
Right now.
What's that?
Look at Jay Uso doing right now.
Yep. So, but I really enjoyed being a heel because, one, you call the match because the heel always calls the match in wrestling. And two, it's really fun to be able to have that crowd in the palm of your hands, to be able to get them to react to what you want them to, the way you want them to. And you can manipulate them to do whatever you want if you're a really good heel. And it takes an art. It's art. You can learn how to do that, but once you do, it's a lot of fun.
Wow. Yeah, because I've been cornered so many times that they got me emotional, especially over a baby face, and yeah, they really got me.
It's always fun to be able to get some 80-year-old woman screaming and yelling, trying to kill you, hit you with her cane or umbrella, and you're like, look, that's what I did,
Wow, man. Well, listen, we're about the time where, but this is not done. Oh, it's not over. It's not over by a long shot. Oh no, I got plenty more where that come from. But we're gonna come back another time with the great Casey Thompson. And Casey, why don't you give us more information about your podcast once again for those that came in late and came in after this great interview.
All right, it's In-Ring Wrestling Podcast on YouTube, Spotify podcast, and all social media, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. You can even X or Twitter. It's all the same thing, In-Ring Wrestling Podcast.
All right. Well, Casey, I got a little something for you. Are you ready?
All right. Yep.
Here is your winner, Casey Thompson.
Yes, sir. And you're going to be announced it the next time after I beat you in the promo contest.
Thank you. Oh, do I get the job? All right. But, yeah, so we'll see you next week, and we'll definitely have that promo contest. Oh, it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. I can't wait.
Thank you for having me.
All right, anytime. Ladies and gentlemen, the great Casey Thompson, and we're going to have more for him next time on the Big D Zone, so stay tuned. This is the Big D Zone, and we are out. Peace.